is lesson, should have had this written down, 32-3, and it's the quadratic formula. So this is going to be the last method that we're going to use to solve our quadratics. I think you will find that it's probably going to be your favorite. If you can plug numbers into a formula and simplify and solve, you can do the quadratic formula. Most of the time, it is my go-to method for solving a quadratic. If I want to find the x-intercepts of a quadratic, it's going to be my go-to method. However, the other methods, graphing and putting it in vertex form using completing the square or solving by square root method, are also useful if you're trying to get other information about the quadratic. So I'm going to show you how to use the quadratic formula. So I'm on page 474. A couple of learning targets here say to derive the quadratic formula and to solve the quadratic equation using the quadratic, solve quadratic equations using the quadratic formula. So that first part, deriving the quadratic formula, you can read through that if you would like. I think it's pretty interesting to see, like, if I start out with a quadratic in standard form and I solve it for x, this is what we end up getting, okay? And using the quadratic formula is a way of getting the x-intercepts of the function. So if I take the original standard form of a quadratic and I solve it all the way down, I'll get the quadratic formula. Okay, that's what it means to derive the formula. The good news is you don't need to know that for Algebra 1. It's interesting to kind of understand where it's coming from, but you'll get into that into your later algebra classes. Algebra 1 really is going to focus on just using the formula itself. Okay, the formula is given to you. It's not something that you need to memorize. So you can, although as we use it, you'll find that you're just going to commit it to memory anyway, because we're going to use it so often. So this is the formula we're going to use, where x is equal to negative b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4 times a times c divided by 2a. And that seems a little bit scary, a little bit daunting at first, but folks, you're just going to plug some numbers in here, and then you're going to simplify. You can even use a calculator to simplify. I would say if you have a calculator on hand, click pause on the video, make sure, like, go grab a calculator if you need to. On your smartphone, look at my family, they're so cute. If you pull up the calculator on your smartphone, you can even turn it to the side like that, use it horizontally, and you'll have your square root functions on the calculator as well on your phone. So if you don't have a scientific calculator, you can use one on your phone. It's so neat. So let's jump into this. Let's go to page 475. So I'm now on page 475. It says to apply the quadratic formula, make sure that the equation is in standard form, which is ax squared plus bx plus c is equal to 0. It tells us to identify the values of a, b, and c, which we have done quite a few times. You know how to do that. You're going to substitute those values into the quadratic formula. And then if the expression under the radical sign is not a perfect square, you're going to write the solutions in simplest radical form or use a calculator to approximate the solution. So we will do either one of those, just depending on what the instructions tell us to do. On your IXL skills, make sure that you read the instructions. It will tell you how to enter your answer. I think they want you to use a calculator and simplify as much as you can. It'll tell you how to round if you need to. Okay, so I'm gonna take you through example A. All right, so solve x squared plus 3 equals 6x using the quadratic formula. So let me copy that one down. So this is example A, and I'm on page 475. And the quadratic is x squared plus 3 is equal to 6x. Well, first off, it's not in standard form, okay? And it's not set equal to 0. I'm going to take this 6x and I'm going to move it over here to the left-hand side of the equation. So I'm going to subtract it on both sides. Let me write my quadratic in standard form. So highest exponents first, x squared minus 6x, and then my constants always come at the end, the plus 3. and then equals 0. Okay? So the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to identify A, B, and C in my quadratic. So A, my coefficient of x squared, is 1. B is -6. And C is 3. I'm going to write down the formula next. That formula is -b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4 times a times c divided by 2a. Okay? The next thing I'm going to do is just use these values over here and plug them into the formula. So negative b. So I'm going to bring down the negative sign in front of b, but what you'll notice is that in this problem, b is actually a negative number. So that's going to end up being a +6. We'll simplify that a little bit later. Plus or minus the square root of b squared. So that's going to be -6 squared minus 4 times a, which is 1, and c, which is 3. Okay, divided by 2 times a, and a is 1. So literally, I'm just plugging numbers into this formula and how I'm going to simplify, okay? -1 times -6 gives us +6 plus or minus the square root of -6 squared. That's -6 times -6 is 36. Okay, minus 4 times 1 times 3. So -4 times 1 is -4. Times 3 is -12. So I'm going to put -12 and then divided by 2 times 1 is 2. Okay, let's keep simplifying. All right, keep going, keep simplifying. I'm going to put equals. I'm going to bring over my 6 plus or minus the square root of. Now 36 minus 12 is 24. Oh man, 24 is not a perfect square. That's okay though. We do need to do a little bit of simplifying here, right? I can simplify, I can factor square root of 24 into 6 times 4. And 6 times, remember 6 times 4, 4 is a perfect square. So that means I can bring the 4 to the outside of the radical. So I'm going to have 6 plus or minus 2, because if I take the square root of 4, I get 2. Square root of 6 divided by 2. Okay, divided by 2. All right. Now we went a little step further than what they did on the solution. At this point, they took a calculator and they did a little bit of solving here. I will tell you that you could do a little bit more simplifying. If you look at, like, I've got a 6 divided by 2, and I also have a 2 divided by 2. Okay, so I can do a little bit more simplifying here. If I did 6 divided by 2, that would give me 3 plus or minus 2 divided by 2 is just 1. Okay, so that ends up being a 1 in front of the square root symbol. And I have the square root of 6. So if I split that into my two answers, I would get 3 plus the square root of 6, and then I would get, I'm going to put and 3 minus the square root of 6. Okay, and you can plug both of those in your calculator, and you would see, like, it'll spit out the answers for you if you plug them both into your calculator. For this first one right here, the square root of 6 is about 2.0, I don't know, 2.4 or something like that. So if you add 2.4 to 3, that gives you approximately, so x is approximately 5.45, and this is what it tells you on your sheet as well. And the other one would be x is approximately, if you plug this into the calculator, you get 0.55. Okay, So just depending on how the problem asks for the answer, they may tell you to leave it in radical form, which in that case, you would want these answers right here. If they don't want you to leave it in radical form, if they want you to actually work it out and get an answer, here's what you want, okay? All right, I want you to try these try these A on page 475. Okay, there's two of them. There's an A and a B. Give those a try, and then you can watch my worked examples.